Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are through the bye week, up on the holidays. We are doing Maryland Crab Cake Tour stops several times this week and next. We're Fadley's on Wednesday. We are at Amici's next Tuesday the 17th, and we're going to be on the Wednesday the 18th doing our traditional send-off with Costas, and I get Crab Imperial for the holidays. It makes me feel very, very royal. Our friends at the Maryland Lottery giving us the Ravens scratch-offs to give away. I will have these. Also, our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care, not only powering me up, but powering Luke back and forth to Ravens training camp this week where he didn't have to go so much last week. And, I mean, if Deontay Johnson doesn't have to go into the game, Luke doesn't have to go to the office. You don't even have to go to New Jersey this weekend if you don't want to. I hear they buried Jimmy Hoffa there. Just a long story. I had to explain that to somebody a couple of weeks ago about the Meadowlands. But, dude, they're a 15-point favorite as the week started. I watched the competition in the league over the weekend. I watched the Browns roll out the ball, and I said to my wife, Steelers are going to win 34-13 today in this one. That's what I said to her when it began. And then I saw Jim Schwartz with a little piss and vinegar, and I thought, well, maybe not 34, maybe just 27. But nonetheless, for me, with watching football all weekend long and Thanksgiving, and I mean, it feels like the Ravens haven't played in a while. It feels like I've watched a lot of football games since the last time they played. And now it's about to change where the Ravens are going to get back in the hot seat and be on national TV and play and be on Christmas night. And the Steelers have to play Christmas afternoon as well. And the Steelers play the Eagles this week. So we're just going to roll the ball out and the Ravens are going to win in New Jersey. I know that. And then where are the Steelers? Where are the Bills after what happened to them and a very entertaining game over the weekend? But entertaining football for the most part, but it felt a little thin to me because they're just a piss pot full of 3-10 teams. There are a lot of really bad teams in the NFL right now as we turn the corner on looking for coaches, looking for quarterbacks, looking for leadership, looking for fans in some cases.
Yeah. And what was funny, I think the game that I didn't sit here and watch it, I was just seeing it on Red Zone. The game that might have been the most lopsided was 49ers Bears, which, I mean, you look at everything that's happened with the 49ers and McCaffrey being out and their backup running back being out and the Bears just having changed coaches. And I mean, the 49ers just spanked them. But yeah, you look around the league, and we always talk about this during the bye week or anytime the Ravens aren't playing on a Sunday. You get a chance to kind of survey, you get a chance to see, okay, who's really good, who's good right now, who's going through something right now. And I mean, you just look at the landscape of the AFC in general. I mean, Kansas City wins again on Sunday night. Not an impressive fashion, right? I mean, I think there's still questions about their offensive line and whether they have enough explosiveness in their offense. I mean, they scored 19 points. They win on a doink with their third string kicker hits it off the upright and it goes in. That was on the heels of how they miraculously beat Denver with a blocked field goal a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's just strange, right? I mean, this Chiefs team is far from dominant. When you see 12-1, you think, wow, that's a great football team. And they're great through the lens of reputation, right? Because they've won Super Bowls, but they eyeball test wise do not impress you. I mean, even their defense, which was good on Sunday night, has had its issues of late. I mean, I think that's kind of been the understated part of what's been going on with Kansas City, despite the fact that they've been winning. Their defense hasn't played as well the last 5-6 weeks. But, you know, you look at that, you look at Buffalo, who offensively looked great on Sunday in LA, but, well, the Rams scored 44 and they couldn't stop Puka Nacua. So they fall 2 games behind Kansas City. So it's looking more and more like the Chiefs and Arrowhead being, you know, the spot that you need to go through to get to a Super Bowl in the AFC, which isn't shocking. But I think you look at all these teams, if you're the Ravens, you kind of say, hey, you know what? We've got our own issues, but these teams have issues too. These teams have areas that they're not as good and things that they could be better in. And, you know, to me, even though you didn't get a lot of help in the standings, you know, other than, I guess, the Chargers losing, you still kind of come out of the weekend and say, hey, it's all sitting right there for us, you know, to your point.
Thank you, Brian Billick.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But it's the truth. I mean, it's the absolute truth. Go up to New York and absolutely take care of just completely dreadful Giants team. This might be the worst team they played all year, and that's saying something considering they played the Raiders and they played the
Well, it's
Browns and they
also a week
lost
to
to
feel
those
good
teams.
about yourself too. If you go up there, you play well, and get the
Yeah,
offense going, get the defense going, get some stats,
it's a tune-up.
get
Yeah,
Deontay Johnson the he's not playing, but get guys the ball. You know what I mean? A little bit.
yeah. Look,
Get Lamar off the field at halftime, maybe.
they can't express it this way. They can't think of it this way, but we can because we're not playing, right? This is a tune up for them, right? This is coming out of the bye week, knock the rust off. Anything you're tweaking lineup wise or usage wise or playbook wise, you get a chance to see it against the hapless Giants because it's go time after that. You're going to be on a short week after that, and then you're going to be on a really short week after that, and you need to win those games, right? I mean, they can't afford to drop any if they want to win the division. I mean, they have to win out, and they need help. I mean, it's that simple. So
I
you
was
know,
watching the game. Just said to my wife, "How are they going to win 4 games in a row?" You know what I mean? Like like they're going to have to. If they win 4 games in a row, they will be the team nobody wants to play in January, and a
I
lot
mean,
of
they
that's
can
going to
do
be
it.
based on how they look next Saturday against the Steelers, and then the Houston game. I mean, this back to back, I can't begin to express, especially if you have older players. I'm talking for Ronnie Stanley. I'm talking about, and even for Roquan at this point, guys. And this
Kyle Van
buy,
Noy, yeah,
yeah, this buy helped, and but they're about to go through it, and to me, whatever they can do on Sunday, whatever the spread is at 15, it might be 13. I mean, it's outrageous 15-point spread, right? Like that's just very un
crazy.
NFL, right? I mean, it shows how uncompetitive that the Giants are,
Oh, they're
Um,
awful.
I mean, it's like Rice playing, University of Texas or something like that. Crazy. But getting out of the game unscathed, we talk so much about their health and where they are at this point, and then really getting ready for the game of the year, right? The Steelers game is the first playoff game because that either sets you on a pathway to have to go on the road or to maybe pull something off on stupid Thanksgiving kind of rest to have to go down to Houston. Pittsburgh has to play too. 1 o'clock. So like what these players are put through and things that you and I, as if we were their mommies, daddies, agents, doctors, we don't like these Thursday games. We don't sanction any of this. The Ravens are about to get rollered into it, and not just rollered into it. National TV, two really good teams, road game on the second end, holidays, families, all the stuff that goes on with the holidays, and having to perform at a level that they're capable of, I guess. I mean, I guess the defense is capable of being better. That's against which quarterback, right? As I would say. And I would also say for the offense, again, against which pass rusher, against which elite defense are you going to see? And I saw Tony Romo this weekend snuck in, and this happened in the pregame. And because you're a special media guy, you miss a lot of the pre-games and you get to sit and watch it this weekend. But Romo snuck in. He thought the Steelers were going to win the Super Bowl. He said, I think the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl. And I thought,
Really?
yeah, he snuck that in. Yeah, he snuck that in.
That's
And
surprise.
well,
Okay.
I thought about it for a minute. I'm thinking, why do you think that? What would make you think that? And I would think Super Bowl quarterback, head coach who knows what he's doing, defense that comes every week, and like maybe a running game. I don't know. And trying to get Pickens back on the field and figure all that out. But there is a point for me where I'm looking for a balanced team. I like balanced teams. I don't like what the Bills have been up and down, and I like them in the snow and 12 degrees at home, and that might be where they are, although they stumble down the mountain going out to LA and falling behind by 3 touchdowns. But the positioning of where the Ravens are right now, not so good, but better than it was before Harbaugh's brother lost on Sunday night to the Chiefs. I mean, they had a chance to win that game. The kick at the end is crazy, right? But for me, going to Houston and playing a playoff game first week of January, winnable. To your point, they'll be a favorite Christmas. I mean, unless they lose by 14 points to the Steelers, I don't, or there's a catastrophic problem.
All right.
Um, but this is really treacherous right now at 8-5, dude. They weren't supposed. They're not on schedule. They were supposed to be 10-3 right now, right? They're not
Sure.
on schedule, and because they're not on schedule, it's going to throw off the rest of the schedule. I mean, already they can't be the one. They can barely win the division. They can't really be the two. So they'd have to go to Buffalo. They'd have to, even though they beat the pants off of Buffalo, they're not going to be in a position to activate a tiebreaker. So all that being said, their pathway to this thing that you said 8 more weeks of football for the Ravens, navigating that, I look at all these teams and say, none of them are any specific great thing, but on a week by week basis to think that this team, this defense, Lamar, who doesn't like the cold, I mean, just I saw we almost talked about it with Juan Soto signing about where you sign. You and I did 20 minutes on Mets Yankees and where you want to be. Lamar should have played someplace where the weather was better. Just I see the way they wrap him in a blanket for 12 seconds in timeouts when it's 42 degrees out, and I don't like anything about the way this is set up for them. I must say that. If I were writing a column this week, I'd say, yeah, John, you're going to win another Super Bowl. Sure you are. Go prove it. And if you do, I'll be sitting there ready to write Purple Rain 3 with you. If you think you're going to Houston, Buffalo, and Kansas City and winning back to back to back with this particular team right now, unless somebody's got the flu, like on the other side I'm talking about, or something really weird happens with the weather. And we used to have the kicker that could handle that. Now the Steelers have the best kicker in the sport. So there is a point for me where I look at it and I'm not writing them off, but if I had to write them, I would have to write them off and not in, because of the way I look at it. I don't like the body of work. I love them on any given Sunday. I really, really do. I mean, to your point, I had shots on 2 weeks ago talking about the greatest offensive ever, and the defense is getting a little better. And hey, Tucker can still kick it 60. He's to straighten it out. All of that could happen in the same way that Jackson Holiday can win Rookie of the Year next year. Adley could get his head screwed on right. They could sign court. It's all this ifs and buts and candies and nuts, but this is nut cut time for them. Not just going to the Giants this week, but getting out of this game, getting Lamar off the field, getting people off their feet, getting guys the right bags of fluids, like all of that's going to go into winning 4 games in a row here over the next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's never easy to win 4 games in a row, but they won 5 games in a row earlier this year, right? I mean, we've seen this team go on that kind of run, and I'll say this: look,
well, then you want them to win 8 games in a row to win the Super Bowl, is what you're saying. That's exactly what you just said.
I mean, when you put it that way, I mean, no one's good enough to win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. Chiefs, all they do is win, 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 and all we do is wake up and say how they could have or should have or might have lost, and they don't.
But my point
Travis
is,
Kelce's sitting there,
but you're framing it in a way
win.
that makes it sound like it's impossible for any team to do it. Someone's going to do it.
This team. I'm watching this team,
sure,
and their
but I'm saying someone's going to do it.
Their offensive line, the kicker, the defense,
their offensive line,
the secondary.
But wait, you were just pumping up Kansas City. Have you seen their offensive line? Mahomes is running for his life every single week. I know that they're figuring out ways to win, but you're really going to sit here and say with supreme confidence that that's sustainable more so than the Ravens' offensive line issues?
Tell me when the Ravens are going to get there January 20. I don't disagree with you. I've looked at all of it and said, yes, in any given Sunday, the Ravens are absolutely, might be better than most of these teams. But like they haven't been able to go out there and lay that meat on the wagon on Sunday afternoons. And now they're going to have to do it in the short box against a couple of playoff teams the next couple of weeks.
But you keep saying a short box. Pittsburgh has to do the same exact thing. Have you seen what the Steelers' schedule is the next 3 weeks? Do you know who they play Sunday?
Philadelphia.
They go to Philadelphia. So Eagles are going to be favored in that game and should be. Now, Pittsburgh might win because it's the NFL, right? Ravens will host Pittsburgh after that. Who's going to be favored in that game? Ravens are going to be favored in that game. Now, they got to beat the Steelers. I'm sitting here hey, I'm the one who picked them to lose in Pittsburgh a few weeks back. So, I'm not sitting here with any level of...
Eagles are 5-point favorite, by the way, because everybody's gambling, so I have to throw that out.
As they should be. As they should be. They're a better team. It doesn't mean they're going to win on Sunday, but they're a better team. But my point with this is I hear what you're saying about this run that the Ravens are about to go on, but Pittsburgh's going on the same thing. Who does Pittsburgh play after the Ravens? They host Kansas City. There is a very plausible scenario. It's quite plausible. I'm not saying likely. Plausible means it can happen.
Steelers lose 3 in a row.
they absolutely could lose three in a row, and the Ravens could absolutely win three in a row, or the Ravens could lose two of the next three. They're not going to lose to the Giants. That's my lock of the week. If they lose to the Giants, then yeah, forget all this. Forget forget all talk about January and all that. If they lose to the Giants, then shame on them because the Giants are terrible. But but my point with this is, look at just see how this is going to play out. I mean, Pittsburgh, look, they're 2 games up. They deserve to be in first place. If they beat the Ravens in 2 weeks, they're going to be division champions, and they deserve it. And the Ravens deserve to go on the road for however long their January run's going to be. But my point is, in looking at this and looking at the run the Ravens are about to embark on, Pittsburgh's got it too. But what they have going for them is they've afforded themselves a cushion. So yeah, they can afford to slip up once and still be okay. They could slip up
What do you
twice.
think of them, by the way?
Who,
Given
Pittsburgh? I
given
think,
where they are and given what they're about to do, to your point,
yeah,
they have to play the earlier game after playing us, right? And they
sure,
have to play the Chiefs in the earlier game
sure.
on Christmas Day. So, um, and they very well might be better than the Chiefs. Like as a collective unit, to your point, they might beat the Chiefs. Chiefs got to worry about going in there at all cocky with one loss and whatever. But the NFL schedule gods feel like they sort of know what's going on when they book
Yeah,
these, right? They
I
don't ever
guess.
know what's going on with the Jets.
Right, right.
but
I,
but this is
I
going to be a fun couple of weeks to watch football. To your
oh, no
point, you're
question.
getting
I
me
mean,
excited. You're getting me lubed up.
no, there are a lot of outcomes here, is my point. Now, we know the Ravens aren't going to be the number 1 seed. Highly unlikely they're going to be number 2. I mean, if Buffalo goes in the tank, which look, they lost Sunday, but Josh Allen was
They better
was
not lose to the
outstanding.
Patriots, man. I mean, I'm looking at they better not lose to the
Yeah,
Jets. I mean,
right. That's what.
I'm looking at the end of their season, their
So
schedule. It's like, wow.
so my point here is the Ravens. I mean, they're looking at best one home game, and then they're going to be going on the road. Which, by the way, is they've done that path in the past to win 2 Super Bowls, so it's not impossible.
Lamar
But
Jackson's never done that though for
well,
me.
okay, Joe Flacco had never done it until he did it once, right? I mean, I hear you, but same thing said about Josh Allen and anyone that's not Patrick Mahomes. And I'll you made the comment about classifying Russell Wilson as a Super Bowl winning quarterback in 2024. Yes, I realize he did it 11 years ago. That's like talking about Joe Flacco in the present day. Oh, he's a Super Bowl MVP. Yes, an eternity ago. Russell Wilson's not that guy anymore, although he's been better than he was the last couple years.
He's playing well enough.
He's playing well enough. I Romo saying that he thinks they're going to. I don't see that. I don't see them as a Super Bowl winning, like Super Bowl caliber team. If they are, then look, hats off to them. But I think
I think their defense is going to travel
I like their
in
I like their
January a
defense,
little
but
bit, and if the offense doesn't kick the ball around, there's a responsibility about
yeah,
Russell Wilson and keeping the ball.
you
And
gotta
I
make
know there are
plays
things he
though.
can't do, but he can still throw the ball. And like
You gotta
I'm
make
always
plays
shocked by how
though.
well he throws the ball.
He's throwing a decent deep ball. And look, they didn't have Pickens on Sunday. Look, again, I picked them to beat the Ravens a couple weeks ago. The Ravens have this block until it's not a thing anymore. It's a thing. They've lost eight
Too
of nine to
much.
Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
right? And look, a lot of those were garbage. A couple were garbage time games where the Ravens sat Lamar. He didn't play in some of the games, so I get all that, but still too much, right? Still have to beat them. But again, you look at that team, you look at the run they're about to embark on. Ravens, have their own stretch of 3 games in the 11 days. So, but my point is, I mean, there's still 4 games is still a lot of time. It's not quite a quarter of a season anymore because, you've got the 17-game schedule now, but it's close to that. I mean, think about it in baseball terms. We're embarking on having about 40 games to go in a baseball season. That's still a lot of time. So through that lens, a lot can happen here. And, that's where Kansas City, for as much as you look at their issues, their offensive line, their defense, Sunday night notwithstanding, their defense not being as good as they had been the first 2 months of the season or as good as they were last year. I think that might be the sticking point for them more so than anything with their offense at this point. For them to three-peat, for them to get to a Super Bowl again. Buffalo, their offense looks great. The defense, I mean, look, the Rams have some great talent, but the Rams are 7-6. I mean, they're not a week by week juggernaut. Even like they were a couple years ago. So point is with this, all these teams have flaws, including the Ravens. So let's see what happens coming out of the bye week. I mean, handle your business against the Giants. To your point, I think it would behoove them if they can be in a position where they can get out of that game relatively cleanly, maybe even a little bit early with some of your best of your best players, knowing that you're going to have a quick turnaround then to host Pittsburgh in 6 days, and then an even quicker turnaround the game after that. So that's part of this, but Pittsburgh's going to be in the same boat as far as these, this 3 games in 11 days. Kansas City is a similar boat. Houston, same deal. I mean, the league deliberately did that schedule wise, so you're not going to have like this, patently unfair advantage for one team or the other in these matchups, other than just the home or away factor. So, it, it's wild. I mean, you think about Christmas Day. That's a little over 2 weeks away as you and I are talking in real time right now. Things could be drastically different. Like the Ravens could be in first place and Pittsburgh's the wild card, or the division could be over. And we're just talking about the Ravens. Okay, which wild card seed are you going to get? And hold on to it. Make sure
Well,
you.
that just shows how important the Pittsburgh game is.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's regardless of what happens on like this coming Sunday. So obviously Pittsburgh's going to Philly, tough matchup for them. Ravens not so much in terms of the matchup on paper, playing the Giants. But if Pittsburgh wins that game, I mean they're division champions, right? I mean, they'd have the tiebreaker, they'd be up 2 with 2 to play. I mean, the division's over then. Pittsburgh would clinch. Or you could be talking about if the Ravens win the next 2 and Pittsburgh drops one in Philly and then the Ravens beat them, then you could be talking about Christmas Day where the Ravens would be a Chiefs win and a Ravens win away from being in first place and being in a position where they can lock up the division
Well,
the
we're going to
following
find out
week.
who's good, aren't we? I mean, we're going to find that out here
I mean,
before
they're
the end of
both
the month.
good, but who's better, right? I mean, who's equipped to handle this, right? I mean, to your point, and look, I've almost been breaking my own rule here because I've been sitting here being disparaging about the Kansas City Chiefs. Not in the way that I'm saying that they can't three-peat or anything like that. I'm saying it in a way that all these teams have some warts, right? None of these teams in the AFC do you look at and say, "Oh my gosh, who the heck's gonna beat them?" I mean, because you know they all have vulnerabilities, including Buffalo. Which Buffalo, I think, until Sunday, they were feeling like the team that maybe was truly the best in terms of
Well,
talent
every
and where
two
they stood.
weeks, a team coming. The Lions
Exactly. I mean, the
like it
Lions
just.
still feel that way in the NFC. I mean, I think the Lions have earned that in the NFC, but I think if you're sitting there in the AFC right now, you're not worried about the Lions right now. 2 months from now, maybe. If you're meeting them in New Orleans, but yeah, I mean, you just look at this, and so much of this is going to be about attrition. Whether we're talking about who's staying the healthiest, or just in the case of who can navigate this challenging schedule. That these 4 teams, specifically, put Buffalo aside for a moment because they're not involved in the Christmas Day thing. But, these other 4 teams that we're talking about, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Kansas City, Houston, who's going to navigate that? I mean, right now, the Texans feel like the weak link out of those 4, but, they're still sitting there leading their division. So it's not like they're out of it. It's not like they can't come out of their own bye week with some answers and looking better than they've looked recently. But,
Well, it
we'll
also
see how it
speaks to
plays
how many
out.
3 and 10 teams are going to be involved in the
Sure.
tentacles of all of this before it's all over with. That you don't get tripped up and lose a game you shouldn't lose. And the Steelers with the Browns on Sunday being an example, or the Bills going out to LA and tripping up there and finding themselves vulnerable to losing the 2 seed and really now not in place to be a 1, which would have really helped them.
Yeah, it would have, and especially since they had beaten Kansas City. So, the tiebreaker is tougher for them. I mean, keep in mind, we haven't mentioned it because, again, we've kind of been focused on Ravens, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City just because they're the Chiefs. But the Bills go to Detroit on Sunday. So, I mean, boy, there's going to be a lot of talk about that being a potential Super Bowl preview. So, good matchup there. But, then you look at them after that, and they have, as you mentioned, New England, comes into Buffalo, and then after
Jets
after that they have the Jets. I mean,
and the Dolphins at the end.
yeah. So I mean, week 18. I mean, the Dolphins are. I think that the Dolphins are interesting from the standpoint of if Tua never gets concussed and doesn't miss that extensive period of time, they'd be in the playoff race right now. I mean, they're good enough for that at least. So that's interesting at least for the end of the season.
They're a
But
good
yeah,
bad team, as you like to say, or a bad good team.
yeah. I mean, again, well, actually, I'm looking at Buffalo goes to Foxborough week 18. Looking at it, so that's they should win. It's not the Patriots of old. But for Buffalo, this Sunday's a massive game for them in terms of trying to keep alive, wanting to be the number one seed. I mean, because Kansas City could drop a couple games here. I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, it's well, although we've been saying that all year and they have one loss, right? Despite the fact that they don't blow anyone out.
Well, what's interesting is that, the whole like Kirk Cousins thing and where Sam Darnold is. And I saw Derek Carr, take that
Yeah.
hand
Oh, that was
injury when he
brutal.
went down. It's brutal.
He hit the
Uh,
ground.
and
Oh,
my
that was
wife saw
rough.
that the first. She's like, I can't look at that. Like we saw it live, what was going on. Because we sat around and watched football all day. And I have the same vibe that like, even the teams like the Ravens that or the Bills that feel good, but feel like championship stock. The league is such, like you like the Lions right now. Tony Romo like the Steelers on Sunday. Everybody can have a flavor, but there's no real flavor here. And the part is, are you going to go to Kansas City and beat Patrick Mahomes in January? Because that's still what's dictated. As much as you don't
Sure.
like them, they're going to have a week off and they're going to
Oh,
powder
absolutely.
themselves. And Steve Spagnuolo is going to get ready for Lamar, get ready for whomever's coming in. Harbaugh's brother's slapping around is going to get a chance to go to Pittsburgh or Houston or Buffalo and have a game. And it feels like Denver. It just feels like the separation of how bad the bad teams are.
Yeah.
It's December 10th and we're sitting here and the playoffs are kind of like set for teams. I mean, there's not a real, now it's just who's going to play who and where. And if the where is Buffalo or the where is Kansas City, that's not a good,
That's
or
not
even
easy.
Pittsburgh, it's not a good
Sure.
where.
Sure. Look, I'm not sitting here championing that. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, that piece of cake."
I don't care how Buffalo looked the other night in LA.
Right.
I
Well,
don't
and
want to see I don't want to see Josh Allen getting off the bus in week 2 of the playoffs and saying, that's not
I
really where you want to be. 14 degrees in Buffalo
win or
with
loss,
Lamar.
how Josh Allen looked in that game. I mean, he had 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's that right. I mean, and that's why I mean, for me, I in this league right now, and apologies to Joe Burrow because he's playing at that level, but the rest of his team is not. So he's not even in this conversation because he's not going to be in the playoffs. But for me, I look at Lamar and Josh Allen, and then obviously Patrick Mahomes has been the gold standards for 6 years now. Lamar and Josh Allen are both having better years than Patrick Mahomes, but like those three, like those are the guys, right? I mean, those are the guys right now. But Allen and Lamar are both chasing Mahomes. And for all the talk, and I just spent time talking about the Chiefs' vulnerabilities, I will also say this because I was also the guy last year when, not you, but think about that Christmas Day game when the Raiders had what, two defensive touchdowns in that game and they beat them on Christmas Day, that afternoon. Everyone was ready to say the Chiefs they're going to get bounced in the first round. They're going to be done. And then we know what happened. I will say this, whatever vulnerability you think the Chiefs have right now, and there are plenty of people that will try to talk themselves into the Chiefs not being the favorite still. And look, they're still the Chiefs. Period. Point blank. End of discussion. They're still the Chiefs. I still view them much more favorably right now than I did at that point on last Christmas when they were losing games left and right at the end of that season, and suddenly they weren't the number one seed, and they hosted a first round game, and then they're going on the road after that. I mean, to your point, whatever vulnerabilities they have on their O line or the fact that their defense on secondary's been a little more leaky, they've had some injuries there, and they're going to have home field, and they're most likely, obviously, because Buffalo's now 2 games behind them even. And they're going to have with that, they're going to have a week to figure it out. And everyone else is going to, in the meantime, everyone else is going to be beating each other up, right?
Kansas
So
City's pathway at this point, if they can continue to hang in, and again, they
two
got
home
big games.
wins.
They got,
Yeah.
I mean, their pathway is sitting around and watching everybody else beat each other up,
Yeah.
waiting around for the worst winner, which is probably the Chargers or Houston or whatever, winning that game, and then waiting on whoever's left. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Ball, pick one of them. That's their pathway. Dude, that's a way different
Sure.
pathway than any other case you're going to
Sure.
make for whatever Lamar is going to go through the next 3 weeks trying to get through Pittsburgh and win the division, and or once you win, even if you get a home game and Pittsburgh has to come here or Denver comes here or whatever. And I the Ravens feel differently to me if they win a couple of games here. Not
Sure.
not the Giants game, but
Yeah. I did. Right.
beat Pittsburgh, go down to Houston and win. Christmas night, we open the champagne and say, hey, now then I'll be writing they're a contender. For right
Sure. And
now,
that's fair.
for right
That's
now, they
fair.
played themselves and their obvious problems: defense, O-line, kicker, just all of it. Consistency and the general penalties, like
Yeah.
all of the problems of their
Yeah.
their headline problems, back end coverage, lack of pass rush, like all of those things in a box. I look at them right now, and it is incumbent upon me, if I were betting on it, opining about it, to say, eh,
Good,
I'm
not
I'm
great.
I'm I'm not plus. I'm non-plus. They've played down
Good, not
based on
great.
their health,
Yeah.
based on their talent, based on their promise, and not just based on their record last year and what they did or didn't do against the
Sure.
Chiefs. Just they added Derrick Henry. They fortified the coaching. They've been a little bit suspect on the defensive side and play calling and whatnot. Lamar has gotten better in play calling and getting them out of plays at the line of scrimmage. So there's a lot of storylines, but the real storyline is they've lost too much this year.
Fair. Fair. I mean, again, you can sum it up as good, not great. I mean, that's 8-5, right? I mean, that's kind of the definition of 8-5 is a good record. 8-5's excellent shape to make the playoffs, whether it's gonna be wild card or division winner. So all that's right there. I mean, we acknowledge that, but yeah, they've got to show they can become great. And when we say that, that doesn't mean for 3 quarters against a team and then
Dude, if
you
you're a
you play
team
with
that's
your
going to
food.
win the Super Bowl at this point and you've
Right.
already belched against the Raiders and the Browns and whatnot, you better damn sight beat the Steelers and be impressive in doing it. And I mean, no penalties, run the ball. You
No,
beat them
just
by 30
win. I don't.
points.
I don't care what it is. Just win. Just
I want to
win.
see the operation. I want to see the kicker kick. I want to see mistakes
Well, that.
not made. All that. And then on shorter rest, go down to Houston and show
Find a
that
way.
you could that you're going to find a way to win on the
Find a way.
road.
Sure. That's
And
fair.
yeah, I mean, and that's what's in front of them.
But
15-point favorite this week. He is Luke Jones. He is
my
Baltimore Luke. Um,
one
y- y-
last thing.
yeah,
One
sure. Wrap it up.
because you mentioned it. Look, once upon a time, the Ravens had a path to a Super Bowl to go on the road against two of the five greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. In Denver against Peyton Manning and in Foxborough against Tom Brady. They were underdogs in those games, and we see what happened. So, and at that point, at this point right now,
Joe
early to
Flacco was planking.
mid December, everything was an absolute mess, and no one thought they were going to do a darn thing other than maybe win one game in the first round and then be done. So we'll
12
see how it
years
plays
ago,
out.
huh? It's been 12
12 years
years.
ago. It's
Mm,
crazy, right?
yeah.
In some ways, it feels like 12 years. In some ways, it feels like yesterday. So, I mean, but we'll see. I mean, hey, I said it tongue in cheek. I'll continue to say it. Maybe for this team, for the Lamar Jackson era Ravens, maybe it was always meant to be a path that's not the number one seed and
Unconventional.
point differential and all that, all these things that said that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Maybe it is the year that people doubt them a little bit and then suddenly they do put it all together. Or we're going to be talking about the same thing in the offseason for months because that's what we talk about because this team hasn't broken through. But hey, Buffalo's in the same boat. The same things being said. Josh Allen's the MVP favorite right now, it looks like. But everyone there, hey, you got to beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And they know that. Ravens know that. But going out and doing it, that's a different story. So we'll see how this plays out. But hey, 4 games left. There's still a lot of football to really determine what this is going to look like once we get to that second week in January.
Any of you knuckleheads out there think Luke doesn't know what he's talking about. He guaranteed me that the Orioles were not going to sign Juan Soto, and he was right about it. So he is Baltimore Luke. You can find him anywhere. The Ravens might be here this week. They're up in Jersey. They are 2 touchdown plus 15 points yeah, well, look at these point spreads are crazy, but that really speaks to how they feel about Drew Lock these days, and I can't wait to see that video of him dancing on the sideline as a Denver Bronco and rapping and whatnot. We will be rapping all week long with our friends on the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. We're going to be at Fadley's on Wednesday with our Raven scratch offs. I'm running low, Roz. I need new scratch offs. Hope to have them for Michi's on Tuesday the 17th, and then we're going to be at Costas on the 18th. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi Care. Also, our 26th anniversary underway. 26 oysters, 26 days, 26 ways. That is brought to you by our friends at Curio Wellness in Far and Dotter. And they have big time holiday things going on and sales happening as well. And last but never least, Liberty Pure Solutions, 1-800 Clean Water. They keep my water clean as well as my water bottle safe and fresh, and my shower's nice and clean. And yeah, just if you have well water, you need treatment, and these folks know what they're doing. So it's why my skin looks so beautiful. 800 Clean Water is the way to find Liberty Pure Solutions. It is the holidays. We're always looking for solutions around here. You can always email me, ness@baltimorepositive.com. If the Orioles are going to sign Corbin Burns or not, they're not going to sign Juan Soto. I know that. But any breaking news happens first. The WNST Tech Service is back up and running and better than ever. It is brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. He's Luke. I'm Nestor. Baseball, football, great conversations. Dan Roderick's. We had a great time at Gertrude's. We talked about the Feast of the Seven Fishes and holiday dining and sauerkraut and kielbasa, which is always on my menu this time of the year, as well as we were at Coco's last week as well with Marcella and eggnog. Had Thomas Rhodes some Zeke's coffee on. He gave me a bunch of coffee. Big appreciation. You know, I love me some Royal Farms. Really nice to take care of some local coffee people, get some dark roast, some Royal Blue. So I'm appreciative of that. And just for Sig and Nick the Greek, we had a lot of fun. We talked about some great things, and Dara Bungeon from J Moore also joined us. So you'll be hearing a lot of conversations around here, getting together with a whole bunch of friends at Fadley's this week and Amici's and Costas next week as we get ready for the holidays. We get ready for football. We get ready for baseball winter meetings as well, and a new government to take over as well. We'll be talking about that as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive, even during a bye week.